There's a saying among people who've actually built wealth. Charlie Munger, Warren Buffett's longtime partner, once said the first $100,000 is a mother. Let's just say it's brutally hard. And once you understand why, something interesting happens. The rest starts to feel almost inevitable. Here's what nobody explains properly. Building your first $100,000 and building your second $100,000 are not the same task. They just look identical from the outside. One is nearly all effort, the other's nearly all momentum. Let's start with why the first $100,000 feels like dragging a boulder uphill. At $0, every single dollar you save comes entirely from your own labor. There's no investment growth doing any heavy lifting because there's nothing yet to grow. If you save $1,000 this month, your net worth grows by exactly $1,000, not $1,050, not $1,100, just $1,000, dollar for dollar, purely from your own effort. This is the part that breaks people. You work hard, you save consistently, and the number creeps up slowly. $5,000, $20,000, $45,000, and it feels like you're barely moving because you are barely moving. In this phase, wealth building is almost entirely a function of income minus expenses. Nothing else is really contributing yet. Now, here's where the psychology gets interesting. Humans are wired to expect linear progress, effort in, results out, roughly proportional. But wealth building isn't linear, it's exponential. And exponential curves have a very specific, very frustrating shape. They start almost flat, and for a long time, they look like they're barely doing anything at all. Think about a curve that doubles every period. It goes 1, 2, 4, 8, 16, 32. For the first several steps, it looks unimpressive. Then, seemingly out of nowhere, it explodes upward. The truth is, it was never out of nowhere. It was compounding the entire time. It just needed a big enough base to make that compounding visible. That's exactly what's happening with your first $100,000. You're building the base, and the base building phase is the least rewarding feeling part of the entire process, even though it's arguably the most important. So what actually changes once you cross that six-figure mark? Let's say you have $100,000 invested at a reasonable long-term average return, roughly 8 to 10% annually. That means your money alone, without you adding a single additional dollar, is generating something like $8,000 to $10,000 a year. That's real money
As you
showing
can
up in your
see,
account
the growth in
from an
users and
asset,
sales
not from
has
your
just
job.
exploded in the
Compare that
last
to your
time
early
period.
days
We are
when your
exceeding
entire net
every
worth
target
might
we
have grown
set.
by $8,000 or $10,000 in an entire year of hard saving. Now your money's producing that same amount every year without any extra effort from you. That's the shift. That's the moment the machine starts doing real work alongside you instead of you doing all the work alone. This is why so many people who reach $100,000 describe what happens next as feeling almost unfair in a good way. Getting to $200,000 from $100,000 typically takes noticeably less time than getting from $0 to $100,000, even with similar saving habits. Not because you suddenly got better at saving, because now two forces are pulling in the same direction: your own contributions and the compounding growth of what you've already built. By the time you reach $300,000 or $400,000, the growth from the investments themselves can start rivaling or even exceeding what you're contributing from your paycheck. The engine that used to run on your effort alone is now running on its own momentum too. Here's the deeper insight hiding in all of this. Most people quit during the flattest, hardest part of the curve, right when they're closest to the point where it starts bending upward. They look at slow progress and conclude the system doesn't work for them. In reality, they simply stopped one chapter before the story got good. So what do you actually do with this? First, understand that the early years are supposed to feel slow. That's not a sign of failure. That's the nature of the base building phase. Expecting it to feel exciting is what sets people up to quit too early. Second, protect your saving rate above almost everything else during this phase, because in the beginning, your effort is doing nearly all the work. Every dollar saved here is a brick in a foundation that eventually starts building itself. Third, once you're past the first $50,000 to $100,000, resist the urge to slow down just because it finally feels like you have some breathing room. This is exactly the phase where compounding starts contributing meaningfully. Stopping here means walking away right as the machine starts turning on. Fourth, measure progress in years, not months. Wealth building on this curve doesn't reward impatience. It rewards people who stay in the game long enough for the shape of the curve to actually show up. Here's the idea I want you to leave with. The first $100,000 is hard because you're building alone. Every dollar comes from you and only you. But somewhere around that six-figure mark, something quietly shifts. Your money stops being just a record of your effort and starts becoming a second worker, generating returns whether you're actively saving that month or not. The climb doesn't get easier because you got smarter or more disciplined. It gets easier because you built something that finally started climbing with you. So if you're still in that flat, frustrating early stretch, stay in it. The hardest part is also the part that's building the machine that eventually does the work for you.